God, you're fun, man.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. I wanted to say thanks to anyone who watched my first video or subscribed or left a comment or even shared my post. I appreciate all that. Of course today we're going to be working on the JZX90 again, working closer and closer to getting this thing back alive and back on track. So let's get to it. So we gotta move the fuse box because the intake's huge, and to get the fuse box out of a JZX90, obviously pop the cover off. There's a little clip on here, and then there's two 10mm nuts on the fuse box, and then there's one here, one below the wiring, and then one out here, and that's pretty much it. To get it loose, now we can try to figure out how we're gonna move this thing. Okay, we got all the wiring out of the fuse box itself. To get this out, you have to basically undo all the clips and whatnot, and this piece, unplug all of it from there. Just drop that relay to get it out of here, and you can route all the wires out of this panel that pops off. And then we're gonna reroute all the wires to go down here below the headlight, basically. All right, so still moving the fuse box. Got it out of here and got all the wiring rerouted. And it all comes down to here. One section of wiring comes through the wheel well, and I mounted the fuse box down here right now. It's just mounted with zip ties so far, but it's mounted down here. I drilled a 1 5/8 hole into the back of it right there for those wires to come through. These wires all come through the hole where that panel is, and the idea here is to put it all down here and possibly just silicone the holes and just seal this thing up that way. And obviously, I mean, really it doesn't get driven when it's rainy, and if it does, I plan on just having a little bit of a tilt to it, so any water that might get in there will just fall out the back. It'll come down out of the holes, maybe, we'll see. But it's just held in there with zip ties right now. Had to tape the wiring up and route it through here, and then kind of making sure everything is gonna fit in here all right, and that it's all gonna work. Had to remove the headlight so I could route the wiring through here, so I can fit this monstrous intake. Might even have to move the power steering reservoir, but we'll see. All right, so doing a little improv here. I had it almost all the way together, and I was trying to plug the last one in, and the wire came out of the connector there. So I have to extend some of these wires, which go to the back of this fuse part right here, or the fuse box part right here. So I have to extend those, which I'm gonna use the rubber sleeve thing that used to go into the corner. Used to go in this thing, the little U-shaped thing, the steel. I'm gonna use that rubber thing as like a sleeve to basically have the wires extended for these three. These are the only three that are short moving this, or sorry, yeah, these are the only three that are short moving the fuse box down here. Everything else has plenty of length and plugs in okay and is manageable. It's just these three that are the problem currently. So I gotta splice these and extend them. So I'm gonna splice them so that'll be inside this sleeve. The sleeve's gonna come further down, and that way it'll be a nice tight, airtight seal in here with that, and then have tape down the rest of it. And then these will all be extended so that we have plenty of room. All right, So I had to extend these 3 harnesses. I'm gonna tape this up, obviously make it look nicer. But this part will be in the fuse box, so I'm not too worried about it. It'll be inside the fuse box. But the other side where I had to extend it is inside this rubber sleeve thing that went into the fuse box originally. Like I said, I cut this piece off and made it like a little rubber silicone cocoon kind of thing to basically hold all the splices, and it's sealed pretty much on both sides with electrical tape, and it'll be tucked up high in the wheel well. It actually sits back here behind this corner light, so it'll be pretty high up, so water shouldn't be getting to it. You know, water will fling off the wheel, but I don't think it's gonna ever affect it. Okay, so got the fuse box completely moved and mounted down here. Zip tied in, but it's pretty tight, so I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. The wire's extended. I haven't sealed up the back with silicone or anything yet, but there it is. Let's just put this back on. And there's all that extra room. So the fuse box sat here and the battery sat here. After moving the fuse box to the wheel well, my next thing I'm gonna get done on this thing is mounting the motor mounts. There's my motor mounts, and then I got my bushings right there. Put those on here, and that'll be one step closer. JZ motor mounts are marked EX and IN for intake and exhaust. This is my intake side. So, if I remember right, I think I used this spot. I don't think it's that one. For sure it's this one. Yeah, we're gonna run with this one. Wait, that doesn't even line up. What is this one? Take my oil filter housing off to put this on. Wait, SpongeBob, we have technology. Alright, got that one on. I don't really like the one that's up there because it's kind of hard to get to. But oh well, if it comes loose, I'll just have to deal with it one day. And then over here, there's a lot more options, but I'm pretty sure it goes here, which would match the other side. Alright, I actually have it on the wrong one. It goes on the second set right here, closer to the water pump, which is what this one is on. It's like 13.5 to the center part of the motor mount. This hole where the bushing goes. So I moved this one over. So these are excessive brand motor mount bushings. They're not the solid ones, but they're kind of like poly something. I don't know what they are made out of, but it's not as stiff as a solid motor mount, but it's not as soft as a stock one. Sometimes you gotta do some funky shit. I got a wobble, I got a 3-inch extension, a 6-inch extension, and then a 1/2 inch to 3/8 adapter. but that's how you gotta do it when these are on here. All right, motor mounts are on. Oh, that's going in. I got the old cherry picker ready to pick this thing up and put her in. Yeah, so I'm a dingleberry. My GoPro was on time-lapse photo, not time-lapse video. So here, enjoy this video of these burgers since I don't have a time-lapse of putting the motor in. Okay, so we kind of got the motor in there, but there's a little problem. I don't know if you can see this, but down here, the IET, or not IET, but the IAC, the idle air control port, basically, where you'd put an IAC in this big intake, the bolt for it is hitting my AC line down here. So we're gonna have to lift the motor back up and try to figure out how to make some clearance for that. But for the most part, it does fit in here, which is good. I mean, it's pretty tight along here, but I'm glad that it fits for the most part. Oh yeah. Okay, so we got the motor in. I ended up moving the foam like sleeve up on the line, and I unbolted the bracket that's in there. That's what I had to do to make it fit. So it's unbolted, and then I had to bend the aluminum line a little bit. It had some give to it. So now it sits down low enough to where it's just barely hitting the foam sleeve that's on there. But the motor is in, bolted up. So it's in there, looks very cool. Obviously, this is the reason I had to move the fuse box, is right here. And obviously the battery can't go back here, and that's one of the things I have coming is battery location cables to move the battery to the trunk. I've got wires coming that are the 2 gauge or whatever it is, and it's gonna run it all the way back to the trunk with those big wires. So now I have to figure out how I'm gonna do the intercooler. I'm guessing that it'll probably end up coming out of here like a pretty sharp turn and going down, and then coming across the front to the, it'll have to come down underneath somewhere over here and to the intercooler. Looks pretty good. I'm gonna grab the RTEC manifold. All right, let's put this puppy in here. Okay. So this is where I have to run a 90-degree kind of like fitting pipe on here to basically move the wastegate towards this way, so that way it'll clear the motor mount down there. Okay, so it's the next day. I just got home from work, and I just kind of wanted to talk about where we got with the car and kind of what is next, or what's to come in the next video, possibly. So obviously we got the motor in the car. The RTEC manifold, obviously I took out because I don't have the nuts for it just yet. But it's bolted to the subframe with the motor mounts. And it's sitting in here. The intake is pretty tight down below here. There's an AC line, a hard line right underneath here that bolts to the shock tower. And I had to unbolt it and kind of put like some downward pressure on it and kind of bend that soft aluminum line. I was pretty careful with it. And Josh is an AC guy for houses, so not the same as obviously a car's AC, but you know, kind of knows the in and outs of, you know, what we can get away with on bending it. And we didn't even crease it at all. We actually just barely changed the angle of it really at all. And then we slid up the foam sleeve on there, so if it does ever hit it, it won't really be hurting it. But from here, we'll probably be routing the wires into the cabin of the car next. Obviously the fuse box got moved down to here. I do have to trim the inside of the bumper right here to fit the fuse box cover, or I may end up just moving the box back a little further. I think I have some more wiggle room in there, so I'll probably try that first. So now that the fuse box is going to be moved down there, Obviously the battery still can't go here because this is so pointed right at it and it's too big. So the battery is gonna go in the trunk, which I got the cables coming for that to move the battery to the trunk. But there'll be a breaker here where the old fuse box stuff will connect and all that stuff. And then the power for basically everything on the car will have a breaker here. So I can disconnect it. I got ground and power cables that are gonna go all the way to the battery to the front. So putting the motor in the car obviously was a huge step forward in this process. Definitely super pumped to get on to the next thing. But I think that getting this motor in here is gonna kind of wrap this video up. And I just wanna thank everybody for watching. Thank you to Josh for helping me like always. I swear one day if I ever were to do this stuff competitively, that man would be the chief of my pit crew, man. He helped me out a lot. And everybody actually in the comments should go bug him and tell him to get back on track with his drift car. His BMW, he was trying to small block Chevy swap it and kind of fell off the path, but I think that maybe if we all try, maybe we can convince him to get back on it and maybe we can see that thing run and me and him can drive again. So thank you again to everybody watching and subscribing and everything. Really, really excited about this Brangers Racing built 1JZ and my Drift JZX90. And see you guys on the next one. There it is.
There's a trash bag.